At what point could the NFL step in and just say, hey, these facilities are not up to NFL standards? Like, we've been in the locker room. I mean, it's pretty embarrassing that they have these kind of facilities where most of the collegiate players we're seeing now, Cardinals have a ton of first and second year players. They're telling you indirectly, like, our college facilities were better than this. Could the league ever step in and force them to make changes?
Team report cards came out, courtesy of the NFL Players Association. We have their chief strategy officer, former NFL player, J.C. Tretter. JC, Cardinals now 3 years that you guys have been doing this, 31st, 27th, 32nd. What was the big reason for the Cardinals' fall?
Yeah, I think let's go through each year. Year one, like you said, 31st. Then the next year, 27th. I think you saw improvements made. They added a family room. They added daycare. They stopped charging for meals. Like, they put in new floors in the weight room. Like, they made changes that you saw them move up. The issue here is everybody's moving, right? So you're seeing teams like the Commanders go from 32nd to 11th. You're seeing the Chargers go from 30th to 5th.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say things are getting worse, but other teams are making drastic improvements that it pushes guys that aren't making changes further down the list. So there's nothing that stands out of, hey, they rolled something back, they did something different. It's you're seeing other teams that were below them move up, and teams that were above them also move up, which creates a distance between.
This might seem like a foolish question, but I know the owners are independent, right? They can more or less do what they want to do. At what point could the NFL step in and just say, hey, these facilities are not up to NFL standards? Like, we've been in the locker room. I mean, it's pretty embarrassing that they have these kind of facilities where most of the collegiate players we're seeing now, Cardinals have a ton of first and second year players. They're telling you indirectly, like, our college facilities were better than this. Could the league ever step in and force them to make changes?
I can't speak for the league. I think this is one thing, like, the point of this project was getting information to the guys and giving them an idea of what goes on at different facilities. Because again, sometimes you get drafted to a team and this is all you ever know. And until somebody gets traded or picked up there in free agency, do you ever get an experience of, hey, in Minnesota, we got this, and we had this state-of-the-art thing, and you realize, like, oh, what I'm getting here is not top of the line. There's a step down that I'm receiving. I think that's kind of the goal, the point of these is freedom of information in our members, getting this information, be able to understand what each team offers. So we can't control what the league does. I definitely can't speak for what the league can do or would want to do, but I think what we are seeing is overall teams are making drastic improvements. We are seeing teams make giant step-ups, and again, sometimes you are restricted by your facility. There's no wall to knock down or place to go, but there are other areas that you can drastically improve, and I think that's what we saw with the Commanders this year. 32nd for 2 straight years. Their facility is still the exact same facility, but what they did, brought in a coach, highly graded. They made changes to the family offerings, made a huge jump. They made changes to the food program, huge jump. They made all these little tiny changes, the way they travel, huge jump. That you saw a jump from 32nd to 11th. We're not talking $50 million of investment to make that jump. We're talking about working around the fringes to make things that guys have complained about or brought up previously. Let me fix these because they're not that hard to fix.
Yeah, the optics of this, it's tough, right? I mean, as you said, things over the last 3 years, or especially since you guys started doing this, have been on the rise. It seems like things just keep getting better and better, but to go 32 out of 32, the Arizona Cardinals, it seems like that facility is the driving force. I mean, where do we see that the Cardinals, is there any conversations post these grades release that they start to maybe communicate some improvements that they could make?
Maybe. Again, like that's the hope too, is you get the feedback, and it's really tough for a player to give that feedback individually. It's tough for them to walk into their owner's office and say, hey, this isn't good enough, you're not doing a good enough job. If that's the expectation owners have, like, they're probably not going to hear from many guys. Like, that's just a really rare breed of person that's willing to do that and put themselves out there. So the point of these is to put it out there to see what changes. And again, we have seen drastic increases. Overall, 32 teams, the average total score went up 3.5 points this year. Went from an average of a B- team to a B team. The top 5 teams, same thing. We saw a raise. So even the top 5 are still improving 3.5 points. The bottom 5, and this thing is a more interesting one, last year the average of those 5 teams was a D+. That was what they were ranked. This year the average of those 5 teams is a C. So it's not that they're doing worse or they should be embarrassed. In the end, my hope, and we're a long way from this, but my hope is we can give out 32 A's across the board, A+ across the board. And in the end, even if we did that, there would be a last place A+ team. So there's always going to be 32. So you got to look at the details of how that gets broken up.
Real quick, and then we'll get you out of here. How is this delivered to the owners? Is it delivered? Do you email it? Is it facilitated to them? Do you typically see responses at all?
So we communicate to our members. So that's why we put it out publicly on our website so our players can access it. Also, the players read the media, so having other people cover it helps get the word out of what's going on and get them alert to what that is. But again, this is not something that we do in partnership with the league.
Yeah.
I think there are owners and staff members that want the feedback. We've heard that from them of, hey, again, they realize too, the generation of 15, 20 years ago that were willing to walk up to the office and say, I got a problem here and I want you to fix it, it's not the same anymore. So I think this is, for a lot of teams, the only way that they get real feedback, and I think a lot of teams appreciate it. I can't say all of them, but I think a lot of teams say, like, this is my one way to make improvements, to hear exactly what my guys think, and then I can go out and do something. I think we would love to be a resource for those teams. There are some issues with the league that we have to work through to be that resource, but I think teams have shown, based off the grades, they have a willingness to improve. They have improved and they want to do better, and a lot of these people, it's below an ownership level, right? Like, it's not just the owner that's executing this stuff, it's staff members, it's trainers, it's family planning coordinators. They just want to do good at their job. And I think that's something everybody can relate to, where they just want to know how to do good at their job because they take it really serious and want to do well.
JC Tretter from the NFL Players Association, the Chief Strategy Officer, helping holding these teams accountable, including the Arizona Cardinals. Thank you so much for your insight.
Absolutely.